Actually, that is, huh?
Have you been to a competition before?
Okay, we'll call our meeting to
It
order
was a little bit different.
and begin with the superintendent's report. Kiva?
Well, thank you, Skip. I just want to check in with the live feed, the sound, and is everything all set? All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight to Toby Elementary for our November board meeting. And I just want to say also hello to everybody watching the live stream tonight. November is the month for giving thanks. I want to take a moment to thank all our VCS staff for their hard work and dedication. We're past 9 weeks in, hard to believe. Thank you, staff. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank our community for their continued support of our schools. Thank you very much. I'd like to start out today with a health department update. I think we all know the good news. The vaccine is available now for children ages 5 to 11. Met with the health department today. They had their first clinic this past Saturday. All the slots were taken. It was very successful, and they told me that they were showing the movie Frozen over and over as the kids waited to be vaccinated. Even more good news out of the health department, 10,000 children doses have just arrived this week, so plenty of vaccine available. The health department can do vaccines during the week. Parents just need to call and make an appointment or go online and make the appointment. Because of that, the health department did declare that they are on track to rescind the mask mandate that's in place, case 6. That's set to expire on December 17th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Stay tuned on that one. More discussions to come. And also today at the health department, I believe last board meeting, I brought up the use of testing, COVID testing, to hopefully shorten quarantines, to leverage antigen testing. The health department is on board, and we will be implementing a test-to-stay protocol over the next few days. It's going to take a few days to get everything in place, but essentially we will now have 3 options for our families and children that are deemed a close contact. One is the traditional quarantine for the full 10 days. The second, which is one that we're doing now too, is quarantine and return on day 8 with a negative antigen test. And 3, the test-to-stay protocol. And basically the way this would work is if a student is identified or a staff member as a close contact, they can stay in school and work in school. They will be required to wear a mask, and they will test on days 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. As long as those are negative, they can stay in school and not go into quarantine. So we have a few things to work out with that. Of course, setting up our systems at the high school, an area where parents can safely bring their kids in the morning to test before school starts. So more information will be coming out on that, but I'm very excited. As you know, our data is overwhelming. When students go into quarantine, the chance of them coming down or being infected is very, very low. Our data is well under 1%. So I'm glad the health department listened, and I'm very happy that Dr. Nettleton gave us this plan today. He's going to be sending a draft to us on Wednesday, which I will forward on to the board.
What was it called again? The testing?
Test-to-stay protocol. Correct. So on Wednesday, I'll get the actual protocol from the health department. I'll share that with you, board, and also I will be meeting with the principals tomorrow to start going over some details and how that's going to look. As you know, currently in Kalamazoo County, our data is on the rise. We're at 332 cases per 100,000 with a test positivity of 11.8%. As a reminder, we would like to be at 5% or below with test positivity. The VCS Dashboard, as of this Friday, we've had 58 student cases, 10 staff cases. And for those of you that got the notification today, we had a lot of positive cases come in today. So that number will change when we update tomorrow. We have seen elevated numbers in the district over the last several weeks. I think you're all aware of that. And that is right in line with the county numbers based on my discussion today with the health department. Also, here in Vicksburg, we've had an increase in the number of student absences due to illness, non-COVID. So we appreciate our families keeping sick children home, and please encourage all families to get those tests done if there's any question. Any questions about the health data?
The health department didn't mention anything about reducing quarantining or that going away, quarantines?
Not yet. They do plan on having that discussion in December with us, so stay tuned on that. It was posed to them today. All right. Legislatively, just real quick, the U.S. Department of Labor, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, known as OSHA, I think, by most of us, published the emergency temporary standards, which apply to employers with at least 100 employees. I sent you the e-blast, or excuse me, I sent you the, I didn't send you the e-blast. I'll read you the e-blast. What I'm talking about here is basically that all businesses and groups with over 100 employees have to have a plan in place, whether they're to have their employers either vaccinated or tested weekly to be in the workplace, and that has to be in place by January 4th. So real quick, I just wanted to give you an update. MIOSHA is working on this, and we should have more details within the next 30 days regarding the emergency rules that will be released by MIOSHA. And then during that time, the ETS requires that employers with at least 100 employees establish, implement, and enforce one of the following written policies. And one of those policies requires each employee to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 as soon as practicable, or a policy that requires each employee to choose either to be fully vaccinated or provide proof of regular testing for COVID-19.
Kevin, I don't know whether you're aware or not, but the Fifth Circuit Court, Federal Circuit Court today put a stay on that order.
Correct.
I mean, we don't know whether the next court above them will lift it or not.
How does that work with the boosters? Like if you're fully vaccinated, I know this is probably more information than you.
No.
You're not a doctor, but since the boosters are becoming available, is that part of the requirement to get the booster if you become fully vaccinated already?
No, the booster's not required. As long as you've had the mandatory 2 doses of vaccine, you're fine for working. The question comes out as those employees in our district that aren't vaccinated would be required to go through the testing if that's truly the protocol we end up drafting. However, we are going to get more guidance from legal, and we're going to get more guidance from MIOSHA, so stay tuned. I just wanted everybody to be aware that that's probably coming to Vicksburg Community Schools. I think last time we discussed this, we weren't sure if schools were part of that order. Last but not least, just want to go over a couple important dates with you that are coming up in November. If you look in your packet, you will find that our high school play, Clue, the game, Clue, if you all recall, will be showing in the PAC November 19th and 20th at 7 o'clock, and then Sunday the 21st at 2 o'clock. And then we will observe a Thanksgiving break November 24th through the 26th. And that's my report, Skip.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, we'll go on to reports of public inquiry. Steve, would you like to introduce our
Yeah,
guests
I'd love
from
to.
Plant Moran?
Pleased to introduce Mike Foster and Tiffany Stacy from Plant Moran. Recently completed the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021, and they're here to provide an overview of the results. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mike and Tiffany.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. As Steve mentioned, we're here to present at a high level the results of our audit. The audit period covers the fiscal year end of the school district, which is the year ended June 30th, 2021. In your board packet, there are 4 documents that are the results of the audit. 3 are the official documents that are required to be completed as part of the audit. The 4th document is the board presentation that Tiffany will cover after I give you a high-level overview of the other documents. So the first document is the basic financial statements. The financial statements are the responsibility of the management and board of the academy, or the school district, and you've hired Plant Moran to put an opinion on those financial statements. We are issuing an unmodified opinion this year, as we have in the past, which is the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can place on a set of financial statements. This year, there is an emphasis of matter paragraph in the opinion that relates to a new accounting standard that the district implemented this year, GASB 84, which took your student activities funds and took them from an agency fund over into a special revenue fund. So just a change in presentation of that activity as required by a new accounting standard. We also, as part of the audit, look at compliance as it relates to your bond expenditures. We're also happy to report that we found no non-compliance as it relates to bond expenditures, which we will test on an annual basis. The next document is the single audit report, or the federal awards audit. So on an annual basis, because of the level of funding from the federal government that the school district receives, you're required to have a compliance audit done on those monies. This year we tested the coronavirus relief fund, CRF funds. As I'm sure you've talked about as a board, you've gotten a lot of new funding sources as a school district this year, and this year we tested the coronavirus relief fund dollars in detail. We're happy to report, based on our testing, we didn't find any non-compliance, and so Vicksburg will continue to be a low-risk auditee. You have to have 2 years of federal awards and financial statement audits with no findings to be a low-risk auditee. Because we're issuing another clean audit this year, you'll get to continue as a low-risk auditee. And then finally is the report to the board. There's some required communications in there. We're happy to report that we didn't have any difficulties, didn't encounter any difficulties in completing the audit. There is an emphasis in that letter as it relates to significant estimates. So as we've talked about in the past, the district has to report in its financial statements your share of the MIPSR's liability, and that is a plan that covers all the districts in the state. You participate in that plan. It is underfunded significantly, and so you're required as a school district to record your share of that underfunded liability on your government-wide financial statements. And the reason we mention that is it is an estimate, so there is an allocation done based on payroll across all the districts in the state. There isn't a requirement that you have to pay your fair share. It's just an accounting that you have to reflect those dollars in your financial statements. Any questions? I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany. She's going to go over the graphs. The graphs are projected up on the screen and are also in your board packet. As we're going through those, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
You can advance 2 slides, Steve. Mike just covered that first one. Yep. So slide number 3 presents the general fund balance sheet as of June 30, 2021. Total assets were approximately $10.4 million at the end of the year, and that's up about $2.3 million from prior year. The increase from prior year is primarily related to cash and investments category and the outstanding accounts receivable balance. The cash and investments make up about 44% of total assets at year end, and the receivables balance make up about 50% of total assets. And that receivable balance is really mostly the July and August state aid payment that is received after the district's year end. So it is included in receivables at June 30 and then received on July 20th and August 20th. The receivable balance at year end did increase from prior year, so that does contribute to that overall increase in assets. Last year's AR balance was lower due to that $175 per pupil cut that was reflected in the August of 2020 state aid payment, which is why last year's was lower, and you'll see that increase this year. The liability balance at June 30, 2021 was about $5.5 million, and that's fairly consistent with prior year, which was about $4.8 million. 66% of that liability balance is that gold category on the right side of the graph, And that's the accrued liabilities and other. So what that primarily is made of is the July and August accrual for the teacher contracts that are paid after year end. So the teachers earn their pay as of the June 30 year end, but it's paid out over the rest of the school year, so July and August included. 27% of the outstanding liability balance at year end, which is that blue category, that's the short-term state aid anticipation note that is taken out each year. It's that 1-year bridge loan that was paid in full in August of 2021, subsequent to the district's year end. Any questions on the balance sheet? Okay. The next slide reflects the blended pupil count for the past 5 years. So for 2021, the pupil count was down about 29 students. And I do want to highlight that the 2021 pupil count is actually based on a super blend formula, which is different than you've seen in the prior years. MDE came up with the super blend formula to help reduce the impact of a decrease in pupil count related to COVID. So it more heavily weights the pupil count pre-pandemic. For next year, in 2022, it goes back to the normal blended pupil count, which is 90% of the fall count and 10% of the previous spring count. And I did want to mention, just because it kind of ties in with the state revenue, the pupil count and the foundation allowance are really what's going to affect that state revenue that we're going to see on the next graph. And the foundation allowance did remain consistent with prior years, so 2020 and 2021 were consistent, no change in the foundation allowance. But last year did have a $175 cut that I just mentioned in August of 2020, which is why you'll see that even though the pupil count decreased, your state aid actually increased this year because there wasn't that one-time cut. Okay? Slide 5 presents the total revenue for 2021 and 2020 for comparison. So you'll see that total revenue increased about 2.5 million from prior year, or about 8.7%. State sources was up about 1.2 million, and I just mentioned that even though that pupil count was down, the foundation allowance didn't have a cut this year, a one-time cut. And then the district also received ESSER equalization funds this year of about 537,000. And those were funds that were allocated to districts whose ESSER 2 formula was less than $450 per pupil. So that state revenue came in to equalize that payment. Federal sources were up about 1.5 million. As Michael mentioned, there's a lot of additional federal funding this year related to COVID grant funding. So coronavirus relief funds were about 1 million of that. ESSER 1 was about 167,000, and ESSER 2 was about 288,000. So as he mentioned, we did test the coronavirus relief funds, that $1 million, and we found no compliance findings as part of the single audit for those funds. Any questions?
Is the inter-district sources, is that K-RASA special ed money?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, primarily special ed, but also the enhancement millage would be a part of that as well.
Okay.
And there's some smaller chunks, but those are the lion's share of it.
As discussed on the previous slide, the revenue was up, so you'll also see an increase in expenditures of about 1.1 million, or about 3.9% this year. This graph right here presents the expenditures by function, and you'll see that 59% of total expenditures are related to instruction, and about 33% are related to support services. And those are consistent with the ratios from the previous year. So all in all, the functional level categories remain consistent, even though those expenditures were up. And I'm going to kind of move right into the next slide because it ties in with this slide. It takes the expenditures that we just looked at for Vicksburg on the left, and it compares it to other Class I schools, which are schools that have a similar pupil count as Vicksburg. And you'll see that the percentages are fairly consistent between other Class I schools and Vicksburg as far as what functional categories the expenditures are in. And then we're going to talk about expenditures on the next slide as well. So I'm going to move to that slide. And what this slide does, it's the same pot of expenditures, it's just categorized by object code rather than function code. So the key takeaway on this slide is that salaries and fringe benefits are the two main categories, and they make up about 80% of the total general fund expenditures for the current year, and that's fairly consistent with the prior year, which was at 82%. So down just slightly this year, but the reason that's down slightly is because you'll see that there's an increase in supplies and other and capital outlay, because some of those COVID funding, federal funds were spent on things like technology, COVID-related supplies, and that air ionization project that would be included in the capital outlay number. All right. The next two slides are going to look at healthcare costs and retirement costs. So on this slide, we're presenting healthcare costs for the previous 3 years. So I'm going to kind of move from right to left on this. So from 2019 to 2020, healthcare costs went up about $51,000 or about 1.9%. From 2020 to 2021, they were up only about $10,000 or 0.3%. And they equated to about $1,056 per pupil for those healthcare costs. The next slide, it's a similar presentation for the retirement costs. So we're starting on the right to the left, 2019 to 2020, retirement costs went up about $239,000 or about 6.8%. And then from 2020 to 2021, they were up about $69,000 or 1.8% and equated to about $1,441 per pupil in the retirement costs. The retirement costs presented on this graph exclude the 147C expenses because there's 147C revenue that comes in from the state that is immediately turned around and remitted to pay those costs, so we excluded them from this graph. And that was about $2 million for this year and about $1.7 million for last year.
If I can just make a real quick comment. For both healthcare and retirement, you know, if you've been around and paying attention to this for a while, it wasn't too long ago where each of those were going up at a staggering rate. And so I think the really good news here is that while those costs are going up, they're far more stable than they had been. I mean, we had years where healthcare costs were going up 10, 15, double-digit increases, and the same with retirement. And when you talk about that level of expenditure on a per pupil basis, you know, those are very significant dollars. So it's good news.
Yes. Slide 11, this is the combination of the results that we just talked about. So we have an increase in revenue, we have an increase in expenditures. The net effect of that was an increase in fund balance of about $1.7 million for June 30, 2021. So the total general fund balance ended the year at $4.9 million. And this is a very similar trend to what we're seeing on all of our district audits this year, just because there was that influx of federal funding, and it's leading to that increase in fund balance. It is important to note that that federal funding that came through is one-time funding. So when you're planning on how to spend this funding, keeping in mind that you don't want to burden the district long-term for these funds that will go away once they're spent. And if you continue to incur costs related to the things you're spending it on now, that will burden the general fund in the long term. The next slide looks at fund balance as well, but it compares it to the state average. And this is fund balance as a percentage of total general fund expenditures. And this is a common metric that's used in the K-12 industry. And you'll see, in terms of the state average, we can only report through June 30, 2020, because the districts are just now reporting their 2021 information. So we'll look at 2020 first. Vicksburg was at 11.46% for their percentage. The state average was 15.9%. We just saw that fund balance increase, so you're up to 16.63% as of June 30, 2021, and we do expect that state average to see a similar trend up when we look at this graph next year. Any questions on this graph?
Steve, does that make a difference in terms of borrowing that you have to do at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, it does. In fact, this year, for 21-22, we have not, we did not issue a state aid note because we're in a stronger position. We don't have to. Now, we'll have to see, you know, what that looks like going forward. There's a lot of, I think you see it across the economy. Wages are going up, salaries are going up, and so, but for this year, you know, reaching that level allowed us to avoid that. So that saves, you know, and that's good because it saves money. While interest rates are low right now, you know, every dollar that we spend on interest isn't available for something else.
And we do just want to thank Steve and Rebecca for all their hard work in preparing for the audit. It is a lot of work to pull together everything that we need to look at and everything we need to see, in addition to the things that they do day to day. So we do really appreciate their preparedness and responsiveness during the audit process.
And just very quickly, I mean, I think we have the best audit firm as it relates to schools that's available. We've talked about that in the past. They do a very thorough audit, you know, and from my standpoint, that's a good thing. And I think from the board standpoint, you should take comfort in that. Really, Rebecca deserves a tremendous amount of credit. She does an amazing job. She wasn't able to be here this evening, but there are others as well. You know, Gail in the curriculum, you know, Gail Van Daff in curriculum has a big part of it with regard to the federal programs, and tremendous amount of money is currently flowing through the food service program. And so Sarah and her staff do a phenomenal job on that. So, you know, we're glad that it's done, but I really enjoy working with Mike, Tiffany, and the whole team. So they do a great job on behalf of the district.
Thank you. We enjoy working with you. Any other questions for us?
Did you, I'm assuming you've audited other districts as well. It sounds like it was a bit crazy year for people to try to budget, not knowing how much federal money, what strings were attached. I just wonder your perception of how adroitly we negotiated a very difficult year that way.
I think you did an outstanding job. So, as we mentioned, we tested coronavirus relief funds, and, you know, with a lot of these federal sources, the money was pushed out and then the rules kind of followed. And so, you know, going through that, Steve and Rebecca reached out anytime they had questions on compliance and restrictions on that money. They reached out. They put together a great memo on exactly how the funds were spent. And so we thought they were very prepared and, you know, one of the outstanding districts that we've seen as far as handling of that.
Yeah, and this was again, another unique year of doing audits. Last year, we did almost all of our audits remotely. This year, we did most of our field work remotely, but did come out to the district for part of the audit field work. And again, they were very flexible working with us, and we were trying to be respectful of your policies and procedures as it related to having guests in the district. And so I think all of that was worked out as efficiently as it could. Certainly, we enjoy spending time with our clients and being out in the field, and it's easier for us to do the work when we're out in the field, but I think we've all adapted to having to do a lot of our work remotely, and so we were able to get the audit done in an efficient manner.
I just want to echo Steve's comments. We value our relationship with you guys, and also appreciate you taking the time to come and do a physical presentation of this for us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the Toby Elementary Annual Report. Mike?
Skip a couple things?
We made a change in,
You got bedtimes. You got bedtimes. We're gonna do that first.
well, I thought you were starting out with organ
You
music.
think I was gonna sing, Skip?
No, you're humming.
I know it. So welcome to Toby. I don't know if you guys want to sit here. We're gonna have, actually, the kids are gonna come up here and present eventually here. That's perfect.
You can do that?
Front row seat, perfect.
Okay.
Welcome to Toby. We're going to have some kids present, so I'm going to kind of quickly go through my piece. I was promised back there, and that beeping you keep hearing is my PTO board sending me emails to try and, they said, we're going to keep doing it during your presentation to get you moving. So, yeah, they laugh, but that's exactly what they're doing. But I would like to give a shout out to our PTO board. Oh, talking to this? Got it. A shout out to our PTO board. President Holly Hill, Vice President Lindsay Summers, Treasurer Kelly Fellows, Secretary Ariel Mayo, Volunteer Coordinator Dawn Freeland, and Volunteer Coordinator Melissa Rogers. If you guys could stand and everybody cheer for them, thank you. They have done a great job last year and this year. And what I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight, restoring our culture, restoring the culture here at Toby. They really understand that, are on the same page as me, and they've done a great job. We just had a fundraiser that raised $32,000 just recently, so we're looking forward to doing even more with what we've got for Toby. So great job to them. Also, our food service is here tonight. I want to give a shout out to the two ladies that work in our kitchen. They do a wonderful job, and if you don't know, food services worked their tails off the last year and a half with all the stuff that they've done. I've seen them boxing food in here and just all kinds of stuff. So, great job, ladies. So tonight I'm going to talk about restoring our culture here at Toby, restoring the culture, and for our board members, I've got all of our little pictures around the outside of that. This title page here, and you guys probably remember some of those themes that we've had for the years. Over the years, Dave's shaking his head yes, so you remember some of the themes that we've had, and that's all about building culture. And so we've been at this for several years, and the why I'm doing this tonight is pretty simple. Here at Toby, we have 5 new teachers this year, so that's more turnover than we've had since I've been here, which is almost 20 years now. We have 1 new literacy paraprofessional. The office, 2 new people in the office, so that's turned over too. And for those of you that are in the elementary schools, you know how much the office affects everything that goes on. Many new students at all levels. We've gained some different neighborhoods that come to Toby now, and we've gained some new students coming back from the pandemic. And then along with new students, we have new parents. And last year, a lot of them were virtual, so they didn't get to experience the culture that we have here. And so we have a lot of them. And then just the students returning from virtual. Some of the students over here were in virtual last year and just returning, and that's just a different year for them. And so, and then I put pandemic on there because that's still happening. And so that affects what we do every day. As you know, everything that happens here at the school is affected by those things. So today, I'm not presenting any data to the board, any academic data. It's just about what we're doing to restore the culture here because there's so many variables that have affected our academic data. That it's hard for me to get up here and say, here are M-STEP scores, when half our kids are home, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But we're doing things to get us back in place, and so that data that's there is baseline from now on, and we're working our way back to where we were. Does that make sense to the board members? Okay. So we look at the district has a vision. All students will graduate college. The district's vision is all students will graduate college and career ready. And then the mission, maximize the success and potential of each student. And then our focus this year as a district is to get back to professional learning communities. So everything you see tonight that we do is really pointed at all 3 of these things. And I especially like the vision all students will graduate college and career ready. Because if you really think about what college and career ready is, I mean, if you've been to college and made it through, or you have a career, all these things that I talk about tonight, or the kids are going to talk about in the Toby way, that we stress here on a daily basis, are those things that employers look for. Now, if you go to a list of what are the skills that employers look for, you see the list of the skills that we have in our Toby way. And these kids will tell you about that in a few minutes. They're just telling me, speed up, man, speed up. So, and you've seen this, key principles and non-negotiables of professional learning community, and that's the district-wide focus. And the whole middle part is about the culture at the school. I mean, we can't really focus on anything unless that's in place. Kids need to like to come to school. They want to come to school. They want to do things. They want to do well. They're happy. They enjoy it. And that's what we're about in the rest of this presentation. So go ahead. You've probably seen this before. I know the board has. The middle is from a group called Cassell out of Chicago, and it's the social emotion learning circle is what they call it now. And it's really a hot item now in education, okay? At Toby, we've been working off of that for 19 years, okay? That's how we set our Toby way 19 years ago, was based on this. Now, it's changed a little bit. The circles added the outside 3 blue circles that I'm going to talk about. But one thing that we've really concentrated on here is, with social emotional learning, is also teaching character. And we've taken character and integrated it into the social emotional learning pieces that we have. And we do that on a school-wide basis and all the way down to the classroom also. And the parents are involved now too, for sure. So if you look at the 5 pillars in the social emotional circle, you have self-awareness, and out here we call that yearn to learn. You have self-management, we call that expect excellence, okay? You have responsible decision-making, and we call that be responsible. Relationship skills, we call that treat others with respect. And then social awareness, out here we call that offering a helping hand. Toby parents that are out here, they know, they've heard that on a daily basis for sure from their kids. And then up there you'll see that we have we get it down to the specific trait that we concentrate on. Right now we're concentrating on courage, and I'm not going to go into their presentations, but that's what we're doing this week because it's Veterans Week. So we strategically place those concentrations throughout the year. Go ahead. So if you, back in that circle, those 3 blue circles on the outside were homes, classrooms, and schools. We kind of look at it as parents, teachers, and students, the 3 groups. And if you have those 3 groups working together, good things happen, okay? And good things happen for the students, and it makes it work. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, first, about the parents and what we've done. So if we can click the next slide. They're giving themselves a shout out right there, parents. So the last 3 years, we have been, or last 4 years, we've been working towards national recognition for characters, National School of Character is what we're working towards. And there's a lot that goes into that. One big thing is that you have to have the parents involved in that. And so we've been awarded the last 3 years what's called a promising practice. So we haven't got to the point where we're a National School of Character yet, but we're almost there, and hopefully that's going to happen soon. But part of that is bringing the parents in. And so the parents that are out here know that they get all kinds, they see all the stuff and all the different ways that we get it out to you by email, and so part of that, what we were rewarded last year was we had Toby Community, which is what used to be our assemblies that we had, and where we did a lot of this learning and integration into the classrooms in our Toby communities, but we couldn't have assemblies because of COVID. So we did it all virtual, and so we made that all virtual, and it still is virtual. Every Friday and parents are involved, so they see that. Some parents are shaking their heads, right? Right, okay. You guys see those virtual Tobii communities. And so we do what we can to communicate that out so they're involved. And we've actually integrated a set of national character standards into what we do. And they call them standards, but what they really are questions and that we answer, and parents can use those at home. And I send those out every week. I forwarded that to the board members. I don't know if you got our character connection. And if you look through that, you'll see that the parents are given an opportunity to follow up with questions about what kids should be doing according to our character pieces. So that's the parents part of it. Then the teachers. So if you go back to what I said before about how we've had a lot of turnover, we've been working on this for a long time. So when teachers turn over, they come in, they have no idea what we're doing, they have to learn. So we created a summer professional development, which was hard for us here at Tobii because we didn't have a building this summer. If you know, you can't tell right now, but we have air conditioning. Okay, so we flipped it on, it'd be freezing in here, trust me, it works. So, which is tremendous, but we were out of the building this summer, so we didn't have a building. We had a lot of turnover in teachers, so we had to change how we did our professional development and focus it on what we needed to, the character integration. And so if you click on, oh, there's a link, you go back, click on that link right there, the top, Summer Tobii Way Professional Development.
On the slide.
On this, just clicked on that, there we go. So I'm gonna let the teachers talk about it here.
I enjoyed the summer PE, how it was structured. A lot of times it's really difficult to get an entire group of people together at the same time. So
I love how our PD was focused on the Toby way, and I enjoy revisiting it every time.
So the summer PD at Toby was pretty amazing. We were able to kind of test ourselves throughout the process, and I was able to go back and refer to some of the videos that Mr. B has shared with us when we were doing some of the evaluations and some of the questions that were asked of us the process going through it, and I found myself getting complete going, oh, what was the content here? And I really enjoyed being able to go back to some of the videos that Mr. B had posted and refer to those to be able to answer some of those questions.
I love the format of the summer PD this year, having the flexibility to do the lessons and the sessions when it worked best for me, rather than working around vacations was fantastic. I liked it because I'm new to the district and new to Toby, so it gave me the opportunity to get to know the Toby way before we started the school year.
Our summer PD was a little different this year in that we were able to do it from home. Mike did a great job of offering lots and lots of different clips, all focused on the Toby way, so it was very relevant to us. But the reason I enjoyed it was because I was able to take my time, stop, pause, take notes, and go back and revisit as necessary, and I thought that was really great.
Summer PD was great for my type of learning and most of my professional peers learning, where it was in small chunks. The videos I could watch on my own time, I do my best learning in the morning and felt more focused. And it got collaboration among staff.
So that was, I know it was hard to hear, so, but, so the summer PD was nice in that it got us all back on the same page. Teachers love the format. We still were referring back to some of the stuff that we did. Got a lot more feedback from the teachers than I've gotten in other PDs over the years. When we all get together for a day and spend a day, it was nice because it was spread over time. And so, kind of like mini learning lessons, which they really enjoyed. The other one I have on there is the internal learning walks, but I'm not going to play the thing because you probably can't hear it back there anyhow. But we started, the board knows, if they remember, we started our internal learning walks 3 or 4 years ago and got in. I go into the classroom and read, the teachers leave, they go visit another classroom and visit the other teachers. And so we especially wanted to get that started back up again this year because we have so many new teachers. And with the way the pandemic is and all the things and all the meetings that are virtual, we have teachers that really haven't spent much time with other teachers. And so we want to build that culture of collaboration. So we're back to those internal learning walks. If you go to the next slide. And I've charted it here, and I'll send this out to the board, but a couple years ago, we had teachers that were able to visit almost every other classroom over the course of 2 years. And so they were able to go, leave, spend 20 minutes in every classroom in the school, which is very powerful. As a teacher, I know I see some of the teachers shaking their heads. It's a very powerful tool. And we've started that again this year, and we've gotten out, and we're going to keep that going so we can get everybody out and get everybody learning. Can you flip to the next piece? So now for the good part. All right. So we've got home, parents, we're working there. We've got teachers, we're working on that end, but it's the students. That's what it's all about. So the students are going to present the Toby way to you and the different things that we've been doing and have done over the last, most of it this first part of this year, but some a little bit of last year. So I'm going to ask them, we're not going to have a microphone because it's not going to work. So you guys are going to have to be loud, okay, which I know most of you can. And we're going to use this. So we will start with treating others with respect and a couple of fourth graders, and they're going to introduce themselves, but if they can come up. And while they're coming up, you're going to have an opportunity to earn Toby Tiger tickets if you're paying attention and doing a good job in the audience. We have some of our safety patrols that'll be handing those tickets out, so if they think you're following the Toby way, you might quite possibly could get a sucker.
Hello, my name is Bristol Bagley. My name is Adriana Fletter. My name is Skylar Zancher. The first part of the Toby way is treat others with respect. One of the character traits that falls under the T is kindness. We started our year off with kindness. We noticed that we had a lot of new people at Toby, and some of them had nobody to play with at recess. So we started the buddy bench. We hope that the buddy bench gets everyone included at recess.
This video is made by Miss Holliday's class. I hope you enjoy.
Make friends with new people. The gray bench next to the blue trolley, the merry-go-round.
How lonely are you?
I'm very lonely.
Great job, ladies. Can I grab that? Oh, there it is. Great job, ladies, the buddy bench. So when I said I wasn't presenting data, that's not exactly true because that the buddy bench is meant to teach kids about exclusion, okay? And exclusion has become a major problem in schools. Starts in the elementary, works its way up through high school. I'm sure Kevin and Adam would tell me that they have a lot of that kids that are excluded that aren't included, and it becomes issues. And it starts in elementary. And with all the new kids that we had coming in, we really concentrated on that, and these ladies did a wonderful job. So a big round of applause for them. Yeah. So next is offer a helping hand, and we've got a couple people to present about that. Nice and loud, Katie.
Hello, my name is Caden Wagner, and I am Toby Student Council President.
And my name is Addison Student Toby Safety Patrol. And my name is Grace Wright, Toby Student Council Secretary.
As a part of the O in the Toby way, our student council works really hard to offer a helping hand. We learned from our 5th graders last year that during a pandemic, it is extra hard to help other people. They taught us this with the cereal box collection project. Here's a little video about it.
Introducing the new City Custom Cash. Then $200 cash back after qualifying purchasing. Apply now. Visit city.com/custom cash.
What's in your roll?
Hey.
The cereal toppled down the halls and into the gym. Toby Elementary dedicated this technology to nurses and doctors at Borges and Bronson hospitals.
It's really, they have to do lots of stuff for the patients with COVID.
The students will then donate the 1,049 boxes of cereal to the 12 Baskets food pantry in Portage.
I think Toby has done a fabulous job.
Joanne West-Pinter is the board secretary of 12 Baskets. She says the pantry helped about the summer. It provided food for up to 256 families a week. Recently, the number has come back down. West-Pinter says it's because the state has extended food benefits, but she expects the need to spike again.
Because prices are going up, and as soon as prices go up, they're still getting the same paychecks.
West-Pinter enjoyed watching Toby Elementary topple the cereal boxes. While the students understand the cereal is about more than just a show. It's breakfast.
See, all these kids like be happy, and we can't wait to help the needy families throughout the summer with cereal.
The more than 1,000 boxes of cereal are now being stored, but on Monday, the students here at Toby Elementary will deliver these to 12 baskets. Thanks to us, Christine, News Channel 3.
We're on a mission to change the perception of the trails. It starts with a team dedicated to serving others at Service for Them.
This year, we have already started helping others. We held a sock collection project in October, called Socktober. We collected 649 pairs of socks for families in need.
In a few weeks during the holiday season, we will be participating in a household goods drive to help needy families. We will be partnering with 12 Baskets Food Pantry.
We try our best and do our best to offer a helping hand.
Thank you.
So we try very hard to teach the kids to help others, and we do that all day long, and we do it with big projects like the cereal box, and then small projects all year long. The 5th graders are in charge of those. Our next group is Be Responsible, and that's our Tobii Safety Patrol.
Hi, my name is Isabel Halleck, and I'm a Tobii Safety Patrol.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Cowan, and I'm also a Toby Safety Patrol. Hi, my name is Aliana Bourne, and I am also a Toby Safety Patrol.
One of our character traits is responsibility. We as fifth graders at Toby are responsible for the younger students. We believe that we need to teach the younger students the Toby way. One way we can do this is through Safety Patrol.
When we catch students following the Toby way, they are given Toby Tiger tickets. When we give them a ticket, we talk to them about what they did. We try and teach them about the character traits. When students get the tickets, they can turn them into their teachers. The tickets are then pulled every morning, and some students get to go to the office and pick from the Toby sucker tree.
Thank you from our from your
Toby
Safety
Safety
Patrol. If you have gotten a Toby Tiger ticket, after you can pick from our Toby sucker tree. Thank you.
So the idea there is that the kids are teaching the other kids, and they do a great job with that. There's nothing more powerful than walking down the hallway and watching our safety patrol talking to kindergartners, and the kindergartners looking at them as same kindergartners that don't listen to any adults all day long. They will stop and listen to the other kids and listen to them. There's no doubt about that. So expect excellence, and this week encourage.
Hello, my name is Leah Schaub, and the E in the Toby Way for Expect Excellence for the Toby Way. Today there were 6 people gone. 2 of them sent videos in, and here's the first video of Hannah Cook.
Well, I wasn't able to pull up the videos, so I just want to talk about Leah here for a second. We had a lot of people present today, and 2 of them ended up being sick this morning. So Leah came to me this afternoon, and she said, we can't leave out the E in Toby Way, right? So she said, I'm going to come and I'll present for them. On top of that, the 2 kids that were sick sent in videos. I haven't had a chance to format those yet, but when I'll send them out to the board so they can see them. But they sent in videos to present their part. So, and I wanted to make sure that she got up to present. Okay, can you look at them first? You're making me nervous. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that she cared so much about it that she was willing to do that and try and learn a part. And she learned a part. She didn't have a paper, memorize that part since this afternoon at 3 o'clock. So big round of applause. And that's the E at Toby Way is expect excellence, high expectations. So high expectations for behavior, high expectations for learning, and that's what they understand that. So, and now the Y, yearn to learn and enthusiasm.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Sparks, and I'm the Student Council Vice President. I am presenting the Y for Yearn to Learn, and one trait we have already worked on is enthusiasm. I am a new student here at Toby, and one of the things I like about Toby is the culture and that the students get to choose some of the fun things we get to do. This video will show you some of the fun days we have already had. Enjoy the video, and thank you.
That was kind of the short version of some of the things that we've done. I just want to mention Elizabeth here's brand new at Toby, and she's a very outgoing young lady, and she came up to me on the playground, and the reason she had this part was she said she loves it here because the kids have ownership, and that's a big part of it. They want to do this or that and this, and it's their school, so we just make it, help them make it happen. And they've done a great job with that. So that's the yearn to learn. And then we have one last young man that's going to kind of finish up the whole thing for us.
Hi, my name is Parker Rozier. I'm a 5th grader here at Toby, and we here as 5th graders try to set a good example for the younger kids, and I don't know what to say.
Parker, you're introducing the kindergartners?
Here are some kindergartners that have been chosen by their teachers for Student of the Month called Toby Tiger of the Month.
Well, I've lost it up there in all the things that are open. Probably all your emails screwed it up. So we have a cute clip of kindergartners. I'll send that out to the board too. But Parker really summed it up in that 5th graders are role models. They're teachers. They do all those things. They leave here, they're ready to go. So we try and get them ready for middle school, for you guys at the middle school. And they're doing a great job this year. Trying to restore that culture so that we can get that back in place here at the school. And I think we're doing a good job. And these guys have done a wonderful job, and they know I've said this. They've heard me say this before. When they were in 3rd grade, I was really worried about this year, okay? And then pandemic hit, and then I was even more worried because these guys are 5th graders, but they are really proving themselves at this point. So great job to our kids, and hopefully we can get that culture back in place and get on with what we need to do here at Toby. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Oh, found it. Thank you, Amy.
So the reason I called you down is because every month, every teacher at Toby takes a student from their class to be terrific Toby Tiger of the Month.
I was trying to try my best to be a good Toby Tiger.
Well, congratulations, you guys are doing a great job. You're showing a lot of courage and kindness and responsibility. So you get a certificate to show your parents and put that on the fridge at home, okay? Or wherever your parents want to put it. Take that home and show your parents. And you get a terrific food water bottle. So congratulations. So I'm going to give you guys a chance towards the end to say something to your teachers. Go ahead, you think about say something to Ms. Mead? Or to Nicole? Like, go ahead and say it right there. Say it to Nicole. Okay, we'll come back to you. I don't know. Nice, good job, guys. All right, congratulations, you guys are doing great.
So the real reason I wanted to play that clip is those kids right there look up to these kids right there. When I walk down the hall, the kids see me and they're like, Mr. B, Mr. B. If you've been around here, you know that. But when the 5th graders walk by, they turn for me, forget about me, and they go right to their peers. And it's the peer influence is so huge. And that's why these guys are becoming responsible peers, because they know that's going to go on as you get older. So great job, guys. Thank you for a great presentation. Nice job. You guys have any questions?
Sorry.
That was really fun. That was fun, thank you.
And our next report, Sarah, you get to follow that.
We'll try
That's
to
our
make ours
school
quick.
nutrition program annual report.
The written report was in your board packet, so hopefully all of you had a chance to read that. We'll just go over the highlights of what was in there and what has been going on in our program for the last year and a half. We gave a very abbreviated report last year, so we'll try to go into a little bit more detail this year without going too long. You can go to the next slide. Our mission is to share the vision of healthy children so that every student is able to reach their full potential with the ability to make healthy choices at an economical cost. So we review that mission statement every year and try to make sure that we are, everything that we do is aimed towards that. All right, next slide. Here's some of the foods that we've been serving. We like to serve a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. The kids have, once we have been having them eat the fruits and vegetables at the elementary level, it's a whole lot easier to get them to take in once they get to Lindsay at the high school. So we like to start them young. You can go to the next slide. Here's some more. Next slide. These were specifically at the high school when we used to have the salad bar, but now we're putting our salads together in individually packaged containers. But we still put the same contents in there. Next slide. On the left, Vera Lynn is preparing some breakfast, and Deb Thomas and Heather are serving breakfast at sunset, and then we have some students over here at the right who are getting ready to put their number in. When we used to do lunch numbers, now we're just checking them off at the line as well. Next slide. So this is how we prepare our salads now. They're all individual, and we go through a lot of them at the middle school and the high school. It's one of our students' favorite cold lunches. Salads, lots of PB&J Uncrustables at the secondary level. We also have a fast fuel, but it's a quick and easy, healthy lunch for the kids to grab and be able to go anywhere in the building. Next slide. At the elementary, we're back to serving on regular trays instead of disposable trays. So getting their lunch options such as strawberry shortcake for dessert, which then they also have pizza Lunchables, muffin Lunchables, and Dutch waffle. Next option. This last year, we still had meal pickup that we had once a week at the high school from 4 to 6 p.m. So Deb Schnepp and Chris DeVries and many other volunteers came every Wednesday to distribute food to families who were learning virtually, along with feeding all of our students who are in-person learning as well. So they had a lot to do getting ready at the high school for those virtual learners on Wednesdays. Next slide. With all of the excess funds that we were able to receive through the increased meal participation, we were able to replace a lot of equipment that was dated back from prior to Maureen. For example, the dishwasher in the middle there, each building got a new dishwasher that was from her predecessor. So we can date them back to the 1950s. So we got our money's worth out of those, but it was time for them to go. Yes. So we got a new steamer at the high school there on the right, and then we actually got 2 new ovens, one at Sunset and one at the high school as well. Next slide. Try not to talk a lot about facts and figures, but our participation has increased pretty dramatically in the last year and a half. So there was a 9% increase in lunch, is just since 2018, but we are also steadily increasing this year as well. So from 17, 18 till now, we are seeing a 33% increase in lunches. And as you'll notice at the bottom, for breakfast, we're at an 82% increase for breakfast since 17, 18. And all of that to say we're doing that with the same amount of scheduled staff, but we've actually been too short all year. So the girls right here, which I'll introduce in a minute, have been doing all of that actually short-staffed. So kudos to them and their hard work. So I feel like this is a lot of the times how it is when I call over to a kitchen, is that they are running around like crazy people. So I loved this saying because it's just, that's lunch lady speed. They're just always going 100 miles an hour. So I'd like them to stand up and introduce themselves and just say what building they're from.
Come on, Chris. Hi, I'm Julie Skripik, and I am the kitchen manager at Indian Lake.
I'm Vera Klein, and I'm the kitchen manager at Toby.
I'm Deb McLeod, and I work with Vera Lynn at Toby.
I'm Lindsay Foote, and I'm the high school kitchen manager.
I'm Anna Roach, and I work with Lindsay at the high school.
I'm Deb Schnapp, and I work with Sarah at the VAB. I'm her admin.
I'm Chris DeVries, and I work at the middle school.
And that's all we have. Any questions for us?
Yeah. What kind of, because things are in such a hurry, what kind of choices can you give for breakfast?
Breakfast, at the elementary level, they have a minimum of 3 choices for breakfast. Usually one hot choice and 2 cold choices. So it might be a breakfast pizza, a Pop-Tart, and a benefit bar, which is kind of like a granola-ish breakfast bar. At the high school, lots of different options. Most of the time it's on a cart that it has shelves on it, and the students go by in the hallway and they can grab a Pop-Tart or granola bar, a fruit, juice, and a milk and be on their way. So we try to make it really quick. That's the same way at the middle school. They can also grab it in the cafeteria, or they can grab it as they're coming in off of the bus.
Do you have, I was just thinking of protein sources for breakfast in particular, and it's hard to do something quick. So what are you doing with that? Because
really our only our protein source of breakfast is cheese and eggs. The kids don't take them very much.
Okay.
And it's not a requirement, actually, breakfast.
Right.
Oddly enough, the state makes protein count as a grain in the meal pattern requirement. Protein.
One more time? Yeah. I'm curious.
This is how the state works. Grains or protein counts as a grain in the meal pattern requirement for MDE, for USDA.
Okay.
For breakfast.
I mean, I would love us to do better than a Pop-Tart for breakfast for middle school and high school, because it's easy, it's quick.
Absolutely.
But it's all sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yep.
Sarah.
They are whole grain.
Have you tried any salads at the elementary level?
Yes. Toby especially does a grab-and-go salad that is offered almost every day. And then we have it on the menu as well.
Is it at Sunset?
We usually have it in the spring and in the fall. I know I had it in September.
Okay.
I don't know.
Like as
we don't have it
just
this month.
As like once a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
For Sarah? Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, I'd like to make one really quick comment. I know it's been a crazy year. I think we all see it. Grocery shelves are starting to get thinner and thinner. Supply chain problems are showing up everywhere. And I know that Sarah and her team have had to go to sometimes some pretty extraordinary lengths to keep enough food in stock. And so I really appreciate her efforts and the whole team's efforts on that. It's been really tough. And so thank you. I know a lot of kids depend on that, and you guys are coming through, so thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our budget and finance report, Steve.
Okay, well, we heard about the audit a little bit earlier in the agenda. I'm going to keep this pretty brief, but included in your board packet is the monthly budget progress report for the general fund, and this includes the first 4 months of the fiscal year, ended October 31st. So, year-to-date, total revenue was at just over 4.4 million, and talk about it a lot. We received our first installment of state aid on October 20th for the 21-22 school year, and that came in at just below $2 million. On the expenditure side, total instructional expenditures year-to-date, $3,184,000. Support services at $3,258,000. And then there's a breakdown for athletics, community services, and interfund transfers. And total expenditures year-to-date, just over $6.6 million. All right, on the second page, you have breakdown by object code. The auditors touched on the size of salaries and benefits relative to the budget as a whole. And you can clearly see that here, year-to-date salaries and benefits for just over 4.5 million. And then purchase services, 715,000, supplies, 719,000, capital outlay, 607,000, and other expenditures at 69,000. So that's it in a very quick nutshell. With the audit out of the way, we're starting to look at a budget amendment, and it'll be a pretty significant amendment. There's a substantial increase in per pupil funding. Our enrollment came in about where we were expecting, but the interesting thing to know, the auditors talked about the super blend that protected not only this district, but most districts from a substantial reduction in enrollment last year. We actually have more students enrolled, more students that are attending, but our blended count will actually drop by about 30 students. So I just point that out. That doesn't create any major problems. It was just that super blend was a significant deviation in how our state aid membership was calculated, and we're grateful that we had that. I mean, that really protected us last year. So we'll see that. We also, there's been a significant amount of additional hiring this year, as well as settlements with all the employee groups. And because, again, when you look at the economy as a whole, salaries and wages are going up. And, we need to be able to compete. We need to be able to attract and retain staff. And so, we've made some adjustments to enable the district to be able to do that. So stay tuned for more information as we work through that. Any questions?
Steve, I just want to commend you for another excellent audit. Those results are not an accident. You guys do a great job, go to a lot of work with regard to that. I know all of us on the board are very comfortable with you handling our finances, and our kudos to you and Rebecca.
Thank you, and especially, I can't emphasize enough the role that Rebecca plays, but it takes a whole team. So too many names to list out right now, but I definitely want to highlight Rebecca and her efforts. She is incredible, so we're very fortunate to have her.
Good, thanks, Steve. Okay, we'll go on to the audience portion. First person that wishes to address the board is Kristen Donna Porter, and we've got a mic. Does somebody have the mic? We need you to come up and grab the mic because that's what picks it up for the live stream.
What? It's on back there at all.
It picks up perfect. Got it. All right. I want to say thank you for letting us get up and speak. Also, I want to acknowledge that this year has gone far differently than I think anyone had hoped. We're doing the best we can for the second year in a row. So I want to say thank you all for doing the best you can. I want to thank Amy McCaw. I had a conversation with her a couple weeks ago, or a week ago maybe, and I want to say thank you. You listened to my concerns, you listened to what I needed and what I was requesting. Receiving the letters from the buildings as a whole when there's a positive case is really kind of frustrating. Having the ability to know when it's in a classroom is much more beneficial for us We're able to look for symptoms for our children. We're able to make decisions based on, the holidays are coming up. If there's a positive case in my child's class, that may impact what we choose to do as a family. So having that ability, I want to say thank you for doing that. Next, I want to say thank you to the teachers. They are going above and beyond with everything that they can do. And when the children are quarantined, I know it's a huge amount of work to try to not only give instruction to the students in the classroom, but also provide enough instruction for the students that are not in the classroom. So thank you to those teachers. As far as quarantine, I think the quarantine policies need to be reevaluated. I don't understand how the Kalamazoo County has very specific things, and the buck has been passed back and forth of who is in charge of how these quarantine works. Conversation with Amy McCaw about the building of Sunset Lake and how that is being done, versus it's going to get tossed back over to Amy Manchester, and then it's, oh wait, the Kalamazoo County. Passing the buck isn't helping us. Setting a timer for 15 or 13 minutes and then switching groups is not helping us. There's a huge difference between a cumulative amount in a 24-hour period versus that consecutive 15 minutes. If you're setting a timer for 12 minutes and restarting, you're not keeping kids safe. You're risking the likelihood of spreading this to more students. And that is a very big concern. And so I'd like that to be reevaluated and make sure that it's done the appropriate way. Also, as far as Kalamazoo policies, this is an educational setting. There were students here that were education or child age. In that Kalamazoo Mass policy, it does say educational setting where students are present. So it's very hard to see our administration not following the Kalamazoo County mask order by not wearing a mask while there are students present in an educational setting. I also think, again, there are too many hands in the pot as far as these quarantining. It is being passed around, and it is confusing to all of us. I will also ask, why does it feel that this district is hiding those numbers as far as quarantining?
About 10 seconds.
Perfect. I'm going to ask that we be open, we be honest, and we do the right thing. We heard about the Toby Way and how amazing we're trying to get these students to be. We also have Sunset Lake, where we're trying to get our students to take initiative and do the right thing. As adults, we need to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, Rochelle Cayley, did I say that right?
Well, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank all the amazing staff and teachers that are out there. You guys are doing a tremendous job. I have my 2 kiddos over at Sunset Lake, and I know everything everyone's putting in over there to make it a successful year. I want to start off by saying I had a list of separate items I wanted to discuss yesterday, but I began to write them down, and what I wanted to say truly changed this evening at 5 p.m. Today I received an email from my daughter's teacher surrounding quarantine expectations with no call surrounding my daughter actually being quarantined at school. I called the staff and the administration, and nobody could figure out if she was in quarantine or not. I did not want to disrupt the teacher or interrupt the class. He finally wrote me back and profusely apologized for the mishap. I still haven't received a call back from the school. To add on top of this, my daughter came home and was upset that she was told by a leadership at the school not to go ahead and spread rumors and talk about what happened to her class with the quarantining and the outbreak potential situation, which was apparently discussed in the class, but she was told not to spread rumors and keep her mouth quiet by school or the school leadership. It feels overwhelming and unsettling, the amount of daily letters that are being sent home and what is happening at Sunset alone. I'm asking that we re-review what the quarantine policies look like, as I've heard back and forth on that cumulative and consecutive piece. I'm also asking for us to take a look at making sure we're quarantining all kids that could be a potential risk. As talked about before, those letters are important to know when it's happening in the class, but there's some confusion around who needs to be quarantined and who isn't, based upon my instance that happened today. And for the teachers out there, I think it's a lot for them to be expected to quarantine, teach, send home things in a matter of just a few hours too. I think we need a better way of handling this and getting a consistent policy in place. Thank you.
Thank you. John Eiler?
All right, that's interesting because I also got letters a week ago that one of my kids was quarantined, and I also had the exact same experience. Amy McCall was great. She explained it. She was very helpful. Then I got a letter from the health department, from Amy Manchester, that explained a different quarantine. Then I called the health department, and it turns out Amy McCall was right. The letter I got was wrong. So this is a year and a half we've been going through this. I know things change, but this seems to be a theme here, right? And what somebody said earlier about the outbreak potential, it's not a potential, it's on the state list. It came out today, I believe. 8 kids from Sunset that we know of, all right? So to that end, also, here's the problem, right? How do you enforce these rules when you have a superintendent and a president of the board who are openly, outwardly, vocally against masks? How do you say this when, Skip, a month ago, you said kids can't get sick from COVID? Can't happen. That's a direct quote. It's on tape.
It's not a direct quote. I'll address that when you're done. You're using your time, so.
Yeah. So how do they enforce these rules? As was pointed out here just a few minutes ago, we have kids too young to be fully vaccinated right here without the masks on, right? It's called leadership. Show some leadership. That's what I want to see. I want to see leadership from the administration. My experience with the principal down has been pretty darn good. I understand they got a lot of hard work to do, but from the administration's aspect, it's been very weak. I also want to see this board be a board of education. We've all seen on TV all of the drama around board meetings. Voting on mask policies. This board hasn't made a mask policy since last year. And by the way, it's never expired. It's still technically there. However, Kevin has changed it unilaterally and never allowed it to come to a vote for this board. I think the people who voted for this board would like to know who is for and who is against. I think that is the basic thing. It sounds like by all rights, they're probably against it. But that's fine. Let's see a vote. Let's see you follow the procedure and do what a board does. I'm probably out of time, so thank you.
Okay, John, I want to address something. Number one, don't make a statement that I'm against masks. If you would have listened to the entire paragraph of what my statement is, and I had it transcribed, I'm going to read it. Even though we aren't seeing the number of kids sick, we do know that young kids cannot get sick, but they can still transmit the virus. That's what I think the concern is with the health department. I have had some discussions with regard to that. They may not come down with it or have symptoms, but they may take it to a grandparent or an adult who hasn't been vaccinated and might have a problem. What I was doing, if you would have watched the entire program, is I was justifying to parents why the health department had their mandate in there for masks. You don't know whether I'm for or against masks. That's not a fair statement to say. I have granddaughters that go to school wear masks. I recommend to my junior who's in high school to wear a mask at the appropriate time.
Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Pardon me?
Do as I say, not as I do.
I wear a mask at the appropriate time. Okay?
I'm confused. We follow the guidelines of the health department. The health department said that the masks are mandated. I'm confused as to why you want to vote, other than to know our personal stance on masks, when we are actually doing what the health department is asking us to do.
Bare minimum, and that only applies to through 6th grade.
But we could still, I mean, so if they rescind the mask mandate, then you want us to vote again?
Technically, you already have on the books a mask mandate from last year.
officer.
Never been changed, has never expired. You have never, Keegan has never brought it back to
The policy, John,
Is following what the health
is,
department.
it gives me the power to talk about masks depending on the conditions. We went with the health department's recommendations, BK through 6, optional 7-12. We've already discussed that.
To comply with the changing regulations is, I believe, the wording.
I don't have the
You've got all
policy in
kinds
front of me.
time here, you could easily do it. The point is to bring it to a vote because that's what boards do. This isn't supposed to be Keevan's policy. This is supposed to be the school's policy approved by the board.
John, we've given you more than your 3 minutes. I'm just gonna make a statement, and then we're gonna be done. We follow the guidelines of the county health department. It doesn't take a vote.
Actually,
They
you
gave
don't.
us. I'm not gonna debate with you any further. We've given you an answer to this. Keevan has in written correspondence. You have not been happy with the answer. And we'll leave it at that. But I also don't appreciate being misquoted and taking 4 words out of a paragraph.
Technically, yours is not correct, it's on video.
This is a transcription of that video, John. I would suggest you look at it. I suggest you look at it again. Garrett, Carlton back?
As a Toby parent, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. B and all the other staff here, and thank you. As far as the COVID policies with the district, I agree with the first parents that have spoken. It looks like the mask mandate is being withdrawn by the health department on the 17th. The next board meeting is on the 13th. What is going to be changing as far as the district? What is going to be the new policies?
As I said in my report, Garrett, we don't know that yet. We're gonna have further meetings with the health department over the next 6 weeks, right up to holiday break. I will be meeting with them at least 3 to 4 more times. So as far as answering that question right now, I don't believe we can. I wouldn't say I don't, yeah, I don't know, but I'm not gonna make a statement today, you know. All I gave today was the facts that the health department is gonna rescind the order on the 17th. That was my statement. And that we would have further discussion regarding masks moving forward.
Did the health department talk at all about, though, having to change that if percentages did not go down? I mean, we're still a high-level county. It kind of surprised me that they weren't gonna be like, okay, we've got this many children vaccinated, and we've got this many positive cases, so now we're gonna lift the mask order. I feel like they're kind of doing it backwards.
They didn't go into that today, Stephanie. What they did talk about mainly was the protocols, the new quarantine protocols that they're gonna send to us on Wednesday. So that did not come up, but of course they did express concern about the numbers.
Okay.
But again, I'll be meeting with them next week and then the week after that. So I can certainly provide an update.
And the rescinding of the mask mandate is for students regardless of vaccination status of students?
That would be correct. I believe after the population 5 to 11 has had access, all of them have had access to the vaccine. That 6-week timeline, once that's over, yes, the whole mask mandate will be gone. The next question is quarantine and contact tracing after January 1st. They are gonna brief us on that as well over the next month.
Okay. Kelly McDonald.
Good evening. My name is Kelly McDonald. I'm the Vicksburg Education Association president. I'll be very brief tonight. To put some context to the case data from last year to this year. Last year we had 10 total staff cases of COVID-19. Currently we are already up to 13 only in November, the second week of November. For student cases last year, we finished with 121 cumulative student cases, and this year, today, we're already up to 70. As those letters come in, of course, it's very concerning to the teachers, and we are truly asking that everyone in our community please stay as vigilant as possible with symptoms, especially first thing in the morning before school. with the mask mandate set to expire on December 17th and not knowing quite what that'll look like, and knowing that the holidays are approaching, we ask that everyone please consider taking safety measures to the extent possible to help your kids, who we love to be with, stay in class as much as possible. As we heard tonight, Mr. B, and last month, Mrs. McCaw shared the most wonderful things that they're working on. We really just want to see our students healthy, in class, every day. So thank you to everyone doing their part to make that happen and help our kids stay in school and stay safe. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to board action required. First item we have before us is approval of regular board meeting minutes dated October 11, 2021.
Move approval.
Moved by Carol.
Support.
Supported by Tina. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of general fund invoices for October 2021 totaling $443,126.06.
So moved.
Moved by Carol.
Support.
Supported by Tina. Any discussion? Stephanie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. Approval of purchase card disbursements for September 2021, is that correct? Rather than October?
No, they're always.
They're a month behind, that's what I thought, but I just wasn't sure. Totaling $111,166.39. That's true, we have to allow for mail time.
So moved.
Moved by Jennifer,
Support.
supported by Tina. Discussion? Stephanie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. Second reading of approval of the 8th grade jazz band curriculum proposal.
So moved.
Moved by Tina,
Support.
supported by Dave. Discussion. Stephanie?
Yes.
Dave?
I want to scat sing this one. Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. First reading of approval of Vicksburg Community Schools policies 100, 6152, 8310, and 8320.
So moved.
Moved by, who moved by Jennifer?
Jennifer.
We have a
Support.
Supported by Carol. Discussion? Stephanie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. And on that, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming. And thanks for being great hosts at Toby.
We got these.
It's just a update on.